Well, to discuss this, let's go to Warsaw and speak to Polish MP Dominik Tarczyński of the ruling Law and Justice Party. And from Washington, D.C., we have Shai Franklin. He's the former director of the World Jewish Congress and has consulted for several European governments on how to combat anti-Semitism. Gentlemen, I'm looking forward to this discussion. Let me begin with you, Dominik. Why is this so important to the Polish government right now, where you can't accuse Poland of atrocities during World War II? Why is this a priority for your government?
It's not about government. It's about Polish pride, history, and the truth. It's about Polish nation. It's about me as a grandson of this Polish soldier who fought against Nazis, against Germany, against Soviets. So this is very important to me, and there is no even one family in Poland which was not affected by the Second World War. So every member of the Polish government, everyone in Poland should be interested to fight for the truth. And this is the step which should be taken long time ago. So if someone is trying to tell me that me as a grandson of the soldier who fought against Germany, not fascists, not Nazis, Germany, is responsible for the Holocaust, and Poland is responsible and cooperated in the institutional way with the Germany, I cannot let that happen. I cannot let anyone say that because it's not true. Okay. Official data is absolutely clear. Polish people were killed. 6 million. Your data is not very specific. 6 million people, Polish people, were killed. 3 million of them were Polish Jews, Polish citizens. Right. So our bill, our act, is in the memory of Jewish citizens, Jewish Polish citizens as well.
Okay, but Dominik, some of them were not killed directly by Nazi soldiers. Some of those people, Polish citizens, were killed by fellow Polish citizens. So when people debate this, would you accept that they're not necessarily blaming...
as well.
Certainly, but they're not necessarily blaming the Polish government, but they're saying Poles were complicit in atrocities during World War II. This is just fact. This is just history. Why are you shutting down any free speech about this?
No. We're not shutting the free speech. If someone is trying to blame Poland as a nation and Poland as an institutional cooperator with Germany, it's not true. We were fighting against them. Obviously, right. There were some Poles who committed crimes and we condemning this. And there were some Jews, Polish Jews, who killed Jews. That's history and that's right. A fact as well. Okay. So everywhere when these terrible wars are taking place, this kind of horrible behavior happened, but the nation cannot be blamed.
Okay, so let's get Shai Franklin's response to this. Does that make sense to you? The man's saying, why is the criticism or maybe revisiting the history and looking at the atrocities that some individual Poles might have been involved in, why is that being conflated with Poland as a nation being involved in the Holocaust? That's why they feel this is so important as a matter of national pride. Do you accept that argument, Shai?
I don't accept the premise because the view that Poland as a nation was complicit with the Nazis is a marginal view. It's discredited by most historians. Criminalizing the discussion about who was involved and at what level, it really puts a stain on what could be a very proud chapter of Polish resistance in Poland's history. You cannot legislate pride. We're having a debate here in the United States, in fact, about are we proud to be Americans and what does that mean? And should there be laws and should there be new libel laws against the press for making criticism or revealing facts about the president or other politicians? And there's a vigorous debate. And we can have a vigorous debate and we can have thoughtful discussion. There's a thriving Jewish community now in Poland, and what was a huge Jewish community is now small, but it's a thriving community. There's rich cultural heritage. There's a history of collaboration among the cultures in Poland. This seems to shut it down, and it fits into a broader framework of great concern to many here in the United States and to many Jews, including in Poland, which is the shutdown of civil society, or I should say crackdown on civil society. In fact, the president now has signed the bill and referred it over to the Constitutional Tribunal, which has conveniently now been placed under his government and under the parliament. So the separation of powers is a concern. To have this law come now and to come the day before the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, I think it shuts down debate, and it's very unfortunate.
Okay, so criminalizing this and the fact that you could spend up to 3 years in jail for this, is what Shai is against. Dominic, doesn't the man have a point?
Okay, so the question is, I'd like to ask you, can we say that American Jews are responsible for Holocaust because they did not react for the reports from Poland about what's happening with their followers, with the Jews in Poland? Jan Karski, who was trying to convince and react, who prepared the report. Can we say that the American Jews are responsible for the Holocaust? Of course not. We cannot say that the nation is responsible. Again, this bill is penalizing someone who's blaming the whole nation. And then I'd like to speak to you about the specific data, not about historian opinions, but about data. Number one, collaborators with Waffen-SS, with the Germans. Belgium, 40,000 members. France, 20,000 members. Holland, 50,000 members. Estonia, Finland, Serbia, Italy, 15,000. Ukraine, 25,000. Poland, 0. And this is official data. This is not some kind of opinion or the book. Poland was the only nation when there was no collaborators with the fascists. And if you had some criminals who killed a neighbor, as you have right now, you cannot blame the whole nation.
So again,
this bill
you've made a good argument.
Protect
but again,
the
you
Jews' history and remembrance.
You made a really good argument.
Which were killed in Poland.
You made a really good argument, Dominic, for why you shouldn't even have the law. Because if there were no collaborators and those other countries have had far more collaborators, why do you even have to make such a fuss over this to draw attention to yourselves?
Because we are called now in many discussions fascists, collaborators. We are blamed for the Polish death camps. There was no Polish death camps.
That's a good point.
There was no
Polish
good point,
Dominic.
Death camps.
Dominic,
Shevak Weiss was very clear about it.
Okay, bear with me for a second.
There was no Polish death camps.
Good point.
Remember, German death camps.
Let me strengthen your own argument and pose it to Shai. And I'm glad you mentioned Jan Karski, because former US President Barack Obama, when he was honoring Karski, he mentioned the Polish government, and he upset the Polish government. Here's what he had to say. Have a listen.
The Jews were being murdered on a massive scale and smuggled them into the Warsaw Ghetto and a Polish death camp to see for himself.
So Shai, it's that particular phrase, Polish death camp. That's the thing that grates with Dominic, with so many others. Obama made a mistake, right? And I guess, to be fair to these guys, this is what they're trying to prevent. They're saying, don't say Polish death camp because it wasn't authorized by the state.
I think President Obama, it was a mistake. I certainly would have tried to correct it, but it was a semantic mistake. It was a semantic misunderstanding. I'm positive that President Obama meant death camps in Poland. And the way the adjectives work and the way the adjectives translate into Polish might even make it seem more severe.
That's what he's supposed to say, and he should say that German death camps.
Excuse me.
And this is the point.
Did I interrupt you, sir? Sir, did I? Is my time over? Can I not speak?
Go ahead, Shai.
Can I speak? Can I complete a thought? Would that be okay?
Sure. Sure.
Have I been disrespectful?
Go ahead, Shai. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm not contesting. I'm not claiming. I'm not here to argue over the history of Polish collaboration, which didn't exist as a nation. It certainly didn't exist. And most historians don't say that either. So this seems like a pretext to crack down on free speech in Poland. And in fact, what's interesting is the opposition, when there's been opposition to this law, the reaction from the Law and Justice Party and from people to the right of it, some of them, has been to blame Jews. Now, in terms of Jan Karski and the American Jewish community, as an organized community during World War II, in fact, there are many Jews and many in the organized community and many historians today and many Jewish leaders and many Israeli leaders who do blame American Jewish leadership for not doing enough during World War II, for not listening to Karski, for not helping more, and for not going up against President Roosevelt. And we don't criminalize that in Israel or here. It's part of learning, it's part of growing, it's part of being a free society.
Okay, so Dominic, let me add something on to what Shai said. And this is going to irritate you, Dominic. I'm going to warn you now. I know you're going to say this is marginal, but it was widely reported. Monday evening, a small group of far-right advocates demonstrating in front of the presidential palace, demanding that Duda, this was last week, Duda sign the law. They had a banner. The banner said, take off your yarmulke, sign the bill, right? So let me add that to what Shai said. Is this all for domestic purposes, to whip up nationalistic, xenophobic sentiment, to kind of carry on that nationalistic wave? Does it have nothing to do with World War II and more about ramping up the right wing in Poland?
They should be jailed. That's what I think. If I would have authority and power, I would jail them. That's number one. Number two, do we have a freedom of speech which you care about and you are worried about, or we don't have a freedom of speech? That's number two, because you are mentioning a banner which, in my opinion, was prepared by someone who tried to work on internal politics in Poland. To me, it's sabotage. But those who stood there with this banner should be jailed, because I love Jews. I do love the history of Jews. I'm a Roman Catholic. The Old Testament, for me, it's a holy Bible. It's a holy book. I love the history of the Jewish nation. And my grandpa fought for the Jews to help them. Not only Karski, thousands of people tried to help. Over 120,000 Jews were saved by Polish. This is official data. What about Pilecki, the one who ran away from Auschwitz, prepared the report to fight for the Jews, to save them? No one helped him.
Right.
We have a huge examples when Poles were saving Jews. That's why I'm so, forgive me my behavior, but this is very emotional to me, because my family, because of help from my grandpa for 3 generations, were called Jews' friends. My family was called in many bad ways. And when I was young in school, I was called in this way as well. So I cannot let someone tell me, as I said, a grandson of those who fought for the Polish and for the Jews, to be responsible as a nation for the Holocaust.
Okay.
So everyone is open to work on a historian book. Scientists are open, and there is no limitation of free speech. And if you think that there is, show me the article, specific part of the bill, which says that it will limit the freedom of speech. It's just not true.
Well, no, I mean, again, if somebody goes out, as you say, you said that those guys should be jailed. They were not jailed, right? And you're saying that there's no limits on free speech. Well, the bill seems to be absolutely clear. If you say that there was Polish, if Poland was complicit in World War II killings of Jews, particularly in the Holocaust, you can go to jail for 3 years. So how come there was free speech for those people who are saying, take off your yarmulke, Mr. President, but there's no free speech for somebody who might question Poland's role in the Holocaust?
Again, I think they should be jailed. It has nothing to do with the bill, and this is hate speech, in my opinion. That's number one. Number two, the question is, did we have a Jews killing Jews in Poland during the Second World War? Yes or no?
Sure you did. Sure you did.
Of course. And no one don't even think to call Israel responsible for the Holocaust. It's ridiculous. So we feel the same way. 3 million Poles and 3 million Polish citizens, Jews, were killed. We both fight it. And what? We can be called now actually fascists, responsible as a nation, as institutional way of cooperation.
Let me ask Shai.
Fascist and responsible.
Okay, let me ask
and
Shai.
Israel is not.
Certainly,
of course, both are innocent.
So you made an interesting point. Let me ask Shai if you think that comparison is disingenuous. There were some individual Jews who were involved in the killing of other Jews in the Holocaust. He's saying criticizing Poland for being involved in the Holocaust is the same as criticizing Israel for being involved in the Holocaust because certain Jews were involved. Is that a disingenuous point as an analogy, or is there some truth to it?
I think it makes no sense. I mean, Israel was not founded by the people who were many. Look, 3 million Polish Jews died, and if 1 million or 2 million or more Poles died in the war, there were still 35 million Poles. There were 300,000 Polish Jews left at the end of the war. There's no comparison. And the instances of where Jews might have actually killed Jews are so few. But I'm not here to argue the history.
Right.
You talk about fascists. I'm not calling you a fascist because I'm not calling anyone a fascist because of what Poland might or might not have done in World War II. I think that history has been settled, and there's no reason for me to argue against that. But what many people in the United States and in Israel and elsewhere are worried about is a rising, I wouldn't say fascism, but a rising right-wing extremism in Poland and in Hungary and in other countries, and this tension within the European Union and the maybe not so much in Poland, but in other countries, the resistance against immigrants and against refugees, that really frightens Jews, and it frightens the people here in the United States who want to see Poland continue on the path that it's taken. Solidarity. If your grandfather's story deserves to be shared, but it can't be heard right now because this law, which you do have something to do with, it's your party, and you're defending it now. You do have something to do with this law, and it does criminalize speech, a certain kind of speech. So nobody can hear your story, your wonderful, beautiful story, the story of Poland today, the culture, the heritage, the vibrant society.
You both made very emotional pleas to each other. Dominic, I'm going to give you the final word here because we're completely out of time. I'm going to go over by a little bit because I need you to respond. Dominic, final answer, please respond.
Thank you very much that you mentioned immigrants, European Union, right-wing. It's all about politics. You made the point. Democracy is the way we're celebrating freedom. And people, the nation, elected our government with such a huge numbers that we don't need coalition. Our people, our nation is against illegal immigration. And I'm very happy that you mentioned politics, because all of this is politics. The final word is we love and respect Israel. We fought for you. We fought for all who died. And let me tell you, it was 6 million Polish citizens, not a million or two Poles, which you mentioned. 3 million Poles and 3 million Jews, which were Polish citizens. Remember that.
Okay, Dominic Tarczyński and Shai Franklin. This was an important discussion to have, and I'm really glad to have you both on the program. Thank you very much for joining us on the Newsmakers.